Hey everyone, how's it going? My name's Jess and welcome back to my knitting channel. Today I'm going to be talking about unpopular knitting opinions. I've seen quite a few of these on YouTube and I always find them super interesting, and I noticed that a lot of the same sort of topics come up, so I've noticed that with the ones that I received as well. So are they unpopular if they're coming up all the time? I don't know. But anyway, I found them pretty interesting. And I am wearing my apple pie jumper. So this is my bubble stitch jumper. So the pattern came out a couple of weeks ago now. Try to show you. Yep. That was really smooth. Yeah. I made it in this awesome blue, which I'd had for a couple of years, and thankfully, when I went to buy more, the colours matched. So the dye lots were really similar, which I found so strange because literally bought this yarn a couple of years ago. So I'll pop the link for the pattern in my, I always get this wrong, description, if you want to make your own. All right, I was feeling it was a little bit too close, too much of my face, too close. So I've just pulled it back a bit now, which I feel a lot better. Yes, so today's knitting podcast, I guess this is what you would call it, is going to be on unpopular knitting opinions. And sorry, I keep doing this. Clearly I'm nervous. So I want to start off this podcast with two of my own opinions, which I think one is unpopular, definitely unpopular knitting opinion. And the second one is an opinion which I'm not sure is unpopular, popular, or maybe it's just an opinion. So my unpopular knitting opinion is that weaving in the ends is really not that bad. I actually quite enjoy it. I mean, if I can sit on the couch in peace, watching a TV show that I love, or listening to a podcast or music, and just sit there and weave in the ends mindlessly, I don't know how that can be a bad thing. I don't know if it's because, as I said, I've got two little kids and free time I really don't get much at all. It's only at nighttime. So, you know, just having that little bit of time to yourself to just relax and unwind, I don't mind it. I think maybe before I had kids, I probably hated weaving in the ends. I probably got annoyed with it, but I think now I just really appreciate just having little moments to myself and having little just quiet time. Yeah, so that's my unpopular knitting opinion, is that weaving in the ends is really not that bad. And it's quite enjoyable once you just, I don't know, put it on your favorite show, your favorite knitting podcast, definitely not mine, or I don't know, some music that you like. Okay, and my next one is the opinion that I have, which I don't know if it's unpopular or popular, but I really wish people would stop telling people how to knit. I find this so strange, and I guess because I've copped it a fair bit. I knit English style, and I suppose that triggers a lot of people. They don't like the way I knit. Even my mum was like, "Oh, Jess, you knit wrong," like clutching her pearls. She wasn't really. But yeah, she was like, "That's not how you knit," because she knits continental. And I was like, well, that's how I was taught from my grade 6 teacher. Maybe you should have taught me to knit if you didn't want me knitting this style. But anyway, yeah, I've received quite a few comments like, "You're knitting wrong. That's not how you hold the needles." And then like this one person commented twice. So they commented on a TikTok saying, "That's not how you do it, that's wrong." And I was like, okay, rightio. And then the next day was like, "Again, you're doing it wrong." And I was like, it's knitting. I'm not doing it wrong. The effect that is given at the end is a knitted piece. If it was like all out of whack and I had, I don't know, holes everywhere, or the stitches were all twisted around, then yeah, you could say that's wrong, but it's just a different style to how you knit. And I'm not the only one that feels this way. I've had lots of friends, like knitting friends on the internet, say the same things, like the comments I receive. It's just so strange. And like, you think it might be helpful saying to someone, "You're knitting wrong, you should knit continental," or whatever style they want you to knit. But if someone's knitting how they're knitting and they're not asking anyone for their opinion on if they should change their style and how to knit, maybe just don't say it, because people are generally pretty happy with what they're doing unless they're specifically asking you, "Can you teach me how to knit a different style?" So it's not helpful and people aren't asking, so maybe just don't say that kind of stuff. I'm happy with how I knit. I can knit quite quickly. I know it might not be as speedy as some other knitters, but I'm really happy with like the tension I get. I think it looks pretty neat the way I like my knitted pieces. I'm happy. I'm not going to change the way I knit. I can't see myself doing that. I'm just really used to how I knit. It's how I've knitted since I was 12. So, you know, like only like a few years ago. Joking, obviously not. So I'm happy with how I knit, and I'm not going to change my style. I can't imagine anyway, unless, I don't know. No, I'm not going to. So sorry, that was a bit of a rant. I wasn't trying to be nasty, but it's just something that it does get on my nerves a little bit. So I asked on Instagram, on my stories, everyone's unpopular knitting opinions, and I received quite a lot. So I haven't been able to do them all. So I was thinking I might do like a part 2 later down in the year. And I have noticed that some of them do come up quite a lot on other people's knitting unpopular opinion podcasts as well. So it's pretty interesting that a lot of people are writing in the same thing. So maybe it's not unpopular, I don't know. So the first one is chunky wool is the worst trend. And I actually did one of these unpopular knitting opinions like a few years ago on my stories, just for fun. I didn't have this channel. And that came up again as well. So I've noticed, yes, it's come up twice. I love chunky wool. Like I have 2 patterns that use chunky wool. So I'm definitely a fan of it. I think chunky wool is the perfect like beginner friendly wool if you want to make something larger. So maybe if you don't just want to knit like, I don't know, a scarf, or, I mean, chunky wool would be good for a scarf. Maybe if you want to knit something a bit more, you know, complex, like maybe if you want to knit a jumper, then I think chunky wool is a perfect start, because it's not going to take you like 2 years to complete a jumper if you're using chunky wool, because obviously using bigger needles, it's quick. And, you know, if you gave someone like a knitting pattern on like 3mm needles, you know, a cardigan or something, or a jumper, like that's going to take a long time, and you know, they might lose steam halfway through. So I think chunky wool is great. I think it's really fun, and I think what's great about it is that you can get so many different patterns in chunky wool. So I'm a fan, but I have seen this come up quite a bit. So obviously there are a lot of people that aren't fans of it, but I'm definitely a fan, and I think the colors that you can get are so fun. And I love like when people do like contrasting colors, like maybe they do like the neckline in like a different color and the body in another color. I think, yeah, I love chunky wool. So I, yes, don't agree with that one, but obviously not everyone agrees with everything. So yeah, I'm a fan of chunky wool. Maybe let me know in the comments if you are or aren't a fan. The second topic that I've written down on my little piece of paper there is knitted bralettes. And this is something that came up on my stories a couple of years ago as well. And I actually really like knitted bralettes. I think they look super cute. I personally have never worn one, and I won't knit one because I have like a bigger bust and I just don't feel comfortable with a knitted bralette, because I personally need like a lot of support, and I don't know if they're that supportive. So for me, I wouldn't wear one, but I think they look super cute. I love it when people knit bralettes and they have like a matching cardigan. I think that looks super cute. And there's so many different ones that you can, like patterns that you can make. So I think they look awesome. But unfortunately for me, I want that heavy duty bra. I want to feel comfortable, and I just know that I would not feel comfortable wearing one, but I think they are super cute. So that one, knitted bralettes, this person is not a fan. The next topic that's been written in is twisted rib ain't all that. And that's really how they worded it. I thought that was pretty funny. I think twisted rib looks beautiful. I think it just looks really, I don't know, like unique and delicate. And I think it looks, yeah, just so neat the way it's sort of finished. But for me, I don't use it. I've tried it on a couple of whips, and I don't know if it's just the way I knitted, if I was doing like holding something wrong. I don't know, my tension was off, but the twisted rib came out so tight that I could hardly put my like hand through the sleeve, and it was just like cutting off at the wrist. So I don't use it because I just don't know why it's making everything so tight. So I would probably need to work out, I don't know, doing less decreases or something, but I think it looks really beautiful. I did find it a little bit, I don't know, it took a long time to do. So I was like, I don't know if it's worth it for me to do it because it makes everything really tight and it took me forever to do. So I think it looks beautiful. I've noticed that a lot of knitters use it and, you know, it looks really just nice and sleek. But for me personally, I'm not going to use it. Sorry. But obviously this person feels the same. I would love to know if does anyone else find that problem when they're knitting twisted rib? Like their cuffs and their necklines are coming out super tight. That's just me. But yes, I think it looks beautiful, but I'm not going to use it. So this one that come up, I feel like is definitely an unpopular opinion. This person wrote in that they prefer purling. And I don't know anyone that prefers purling. I don't mind purling. I mean, it's still part of the knitting process. And I still obviously enjoy sitting on the couch and purling. I find that fine. But I definitely do prefer knitting, but I'm not going to say that I dislike purling. But yeah, this person prefers purling, so that's cool. I don't know anyone else that has ever said they prefer purling. Most people have just said they don't like purling. If you prefer purling, then I would love to know as well. There can't just be one person in the world, but yes, prefers purling. So the next person has written in that, Italian bind off is not pretty and it's not worth it. I think it looks really pretty. I think it looks great. I don't know if it's worth it. I actually don't really use it much. I've used it once on a, probably going to say this wrong, Spectacle Strick, that knitting brand. They have really cool patterns. Probably saying that wrong, sorry. But I did use it once on one of their patterns. I made like a t-shirt. I had like a little collar. It was green and purple. It was very cute. And I used that in the bind off. But yeah, it was very tedious and I was having to watch YouTube a lot just to master it. And I know that it gave like a nice stretchy edge. So I think it looks nice, obviously gives that good stretchy edge. But I don't know if it's worth it because I think casting off in rib stitch gives you a nice clean edge and a nice stretchy edge. So I'm not sure if it's worth it. I think it looks pretty, but yeah, I don't know if it's worth it. I know there's a lot of people that will only use that for the cast off. So maybe let me know in the comments if you are someone that only uses that in the cast off method and why you prefer it over just doing like a rib stitch or something. Obviously, yeah, it looks nice, but the effort you have to do. And I guess the more you do it, the quicker you're going to get at it. But I just felt like I was really fumbly with it. All right, this one I definitely don't agree with. It's a hard no. This person wrote that they hate circular needles. That is all I use. I never use straight needles, like ever. I don't know the last time that I have used straight needles. My mum went to Tasmania recently and bought me these really cute wooden straight needles, 6mm ones, but I haven't used them. I haven't knit anything with 6mm needles, but I do want to use them, but I only ever use circular needles. I just think why wouldn't you? Because, you know, all the weight can go onto like the cable. I just feel like you're not hurting your wrists as much. It's not as heavy. I think straight needles look really cute when you can get them, you know, with some cool patterns and like the tops of them can have like something fun on the end of it. But I don't know. Hard no. That's all I use is circular needles. Yeah, if you are one of those people that hate circular needles, can you tell me why you hate them? This person has just written that they hate circular needles, so I would love to know why. The one thing that is annoying is when the cable like gets all twisted up. Apparently you can put them in boiling water and straighten out the cable. I need to do that with some of mine because they're all like twisted up. But yeah, definitely don't agree with that. I think circular needles are the best and I feel like you can't convince me otherwise. Okay, so I've brought my knitting in. I don't know if I'll be able to talk and knit at the same time, but this is what I'm knitting. This is a nice, beautiful green. This is a poly cardigan that's pretty much come up in every video. So I'm doing like a final sample and I am writing out the pattern. So I am trying to not be someone that procrastinates so much because I really do procrastinate a lot. So I'll see how I go. I don't know if I'm going to be able to knit and talk at the same time, but I'm going to give it a whack. Okay, the next statement that's been written in is that blocking isn't worth it. And I would say that a few years ago, before I really started knitting again, I would say that, yeah, I didn't block ever. I didn't even really know how to block. I felt like it seemed so complicated, but it's really not. But I was just like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know what you're talking about. What's blocking? What's wet blocking? And yeah, I would never block, probably because I just didn't know how to do it. But I definitely block now. I think blocking just gives a beautiful, nice drape, and it makes all the stitches nice and even. It just makes everything look neater and nicer. And you know, when you've got like wool and it can feel like quite stiff, when you block it, it all gives that beautiful drape and it just makes everything look better. Especially if you're doing like a lace pattern or something, it really opens up those stitches. So it's definitely worth it. If you've got like a chunky jumper, you know, with super bulky weight, like it's crazy sexy wool or something like that, then I would just tend to steam block, because I just think that takes so long to dry if you're wet blocking it, like days. And I think steam blocking is still really good for that. So yeah, I definitely recommend blocking. And I think once you start doing it, you realize how much better it makes the knits look. Yeah, it's definitely worth it. So no, I don't agree with that one. So the next one has been written in, I've seen this come up quite a bit as well, is that this person has written in that they don't swatch. I guess I haven't knitted someone's pattern in a long time, I don't think. So I actually did swatch though. The last time I knitted someone's pattern, I did a little swatch and realized that my tension was much tighter. So I did, I think I either changed the needles or I added in like another thread of yarn. And I'm glad I did, because then if I didn't, then the thing I was knitting, I'm pretty sure it was that Spectacle Strick t-shirt. Yeah, that would have turned out super tiny. So I'm glad I did. I think it's definitely worth swatching, especially if you are knitting, if you're test knitting someone's pattern, then I really think it's beneficial to swatch. So I definitely think it's worth swatching, especially imagine if you're knitting like a cardigan or a jumper or a coat, if you're knitting like a massive knitted piece on tiny needles, so like 3mm needles, and you didn't do a swatch and it turned out the completely wrong size. Like maybe it turned out too big or too small. Like how shattered would you be when you could have just done a little 10cm square and been like, oh yeah, what do I need to change? Or, oh yeah, this is good. So no, I definitely recommend swatching. I think it may be a little bit annoying and you just want to start the project, but yeah, it's definitely worth it. This person has written in that there is no such thing as an original design anymore. With this one, I think yes and no. So, I mean, how many, sort of like stockinette jumpers are there out there? And I say this as someone who knits the stockinette jumpers, because I love, like, stockinette's literally my favorite stitch. I think it's the best. And I have plenty of stockinette knit jumpers. So obviously in that regard, there's probably not going to be one that's like super original, because it's the same stitch and there's a lot of them. I think you can make them sort of your own by maybe using, different colors, different yarns, maybe combining different yarns. You might do like a really on thin needles or larger needles. So I suppose with that kind of thing, like jumpers and cardigans, using sort of simple plain stitches, yeah, they're probably not that original, but you can try to make them your own, and they can look different from one another. But I think there can be definitely completely original designs. I mean, if you're using color work or like duplicate stitch, like intarsia, then you can definitely make something that I think is completely original. I mean, if I knitted a jumper and wrote my name, where I live, like my address, did some pictures, like all in duplicate stitch, I mean, that's completely original. I don't know anyone else that would have that. I personally, I'm not going to make that. But maybe there's, using like different pictures all over a jumper, or crazy color work or something like that. I think then you can make it completely your own and original. So I think that's a yes and a no. I think there's definitely times where things can be completely original, or maybe using like a bunch of different stitches in a jumper. So maybe you've got like, I don't know, like bubble, and I think it's like rain stitch or teardrop stitch, or I don't know, like I'm trying to think of all the stitches off the top of my head, like hurdle stitch, or I don't know, some cables, like all these crazy stitches all in one. Then yeah, maybe someone's never done that before. So I can see where they're coming from, where sometimes There are a lot of jumpers that are made in like the same stitch and maybe they look similar, but I think there's always ways that you can make something completely your own. The next one that has been written in is that this person has written that there's too many patterns available on the market today. So I don't agree with this one, because I think what's great is that there is definitely something for everyone. So there are lots of patterns available. I think probably more so in the last probably few years than there were, but I think it's awesome because if you have something in mind that you want to knit, maybe you're a beginner knitter and you just want to knit something simple, then it's pretty easy for you to find a pattern that's going to suit what you want. So I definitely don't think that there are too many patterns available. And, everyone has different tastes. Not everyone's going to like the same cardigan or jumper that's available. So I think it's awesome that there are so many patterns available. And, when you think about how many people there are in the world to how many patterns are available, well, maybe there isn't that many. And I definitely don't think there's too many. So yeah, this one has come up for me. I think it's come up twice now. But I definitely don't think there's too many patterns available. I would love to know what anyone watching thinks. So Sam, my husband, what do you think? Are there too many patterns available? I personally don't. I think there's an awesome range and there's something for everyone. So I don't know how I'm going with this. It's not so bad now because I'm just doing like the plain knit, but once I get up to this cabling, don't know if I'll keep going. But now you can all see how I knit and how it is English style and how, it must annoy a lot of people. All right, this person has written in intarsia is better than duplicate stitch. So with this one, I think they're used, I feel like I use them in different sort of circumstances. I think intarsia is great when you're doing color work and it's like a big panel. So like I see like when people do like those cool cow stitch jumpers, like cow pattern or like clouds or something. I think it's good for that intarsia because you can do, knit the one color, then knit like a big bit and then knit another little bit. And it's quite smooth and it doesn't look too much, because I feel like with duplicate stitch, imagine if you like stitching on all these big patches, it would make the jumper so thick and heavy. So I think intarsia is great for those larger panels because it's just, you're still just doing that one separate wool, whereas duplicate is going over the top of the wool. But I think duplicate is great if you're just doing like little bits. So like if you're just stitching on like a love heart or like a flower or a sun or something like that, like little pictures, I think duplicate stitch is better for that because again, I think it just looks a bit neater. I love when things look neat, and I think they're both great, and I think they're both good in their own different way. So I wouldn't say that one is better than the other, but maybe you guys can let me know which one you prefer, intarsia or duplicate stitch. This is not something I've done before, but I feel like this has also come up a couple of times, that triple knots over weaving in the ends. I've never tried it. Maybe I should try it. I think I'm just so used to weaving in the ends that I've never done the triple knot thing. I think I was worried that they would like unravel and then it would be like, oh, now it's, because I've cut them, now it's too small to sort of tie them back up. So not something I've done before, but it does come up. So I'm guessing it does work okay. If you've done it before and you prefer this over weaving in the ends, let me know. But I think I'm just so used to weaving in the ends now that I haven't done this triple knot thing. I also imagine that you have to tie them quite tight. And I hate when sometimes you are like, if you need to change, you've run out of yarn, you need to put in a new yarn and you do a knot and then it like, you do it tight and then it makes the knit look funny on the front. So that's all I can think of, which is maybe putting me off. But yes, let me know if you do that instead of weaving in the ends. All right, so this is the last one. I feel like this probably isn't a super long podcast, but I don't think anyone wants to hear my voice for an hour. So I don't want to like bang on too long, but they've written that they will avoid everything instead of seaming. So they're going to reverse engineer a pattern, they've written, instead of seaming. So I actually don't mind seaming. Seaming is just like weaving in the ends. I really don't think it's that bad. I think it's quite, relaxing. And how good is mattress stitch when you get to like pull on the thread and it like all comes together perfectly? I love that. And I think when you knit flat, it just opens up, I feel like it's gotten dark. It opens up so many more opportunities for knits. So maybe you're doing like a really complicated cable and you're knitting it in the round, it's going well, but then when you need to come to splitting the front and the back and you just can't work it out now because the stitch counts are different and it's all tricky and annoying and complicated. And I know this because I've tried this, because I used to be like, I don't want to seam, I just want to knit in the round. And then eventually I was like, you know, I can knit way more stuff if I seam. I can knit things easier. So no, I don't agree that you should avoid seaming, so not doing patterns because you have to seam. I think it's, I don't know, I think it's fun. I think it's relaxing. I guess now because I've gotten more used to it, I think it's definitely worth it. And I think knitting in the round is great because, you know, it's, you can just do knit stitches until you get to having to separate the front and the back. But no, I'm going to seam. You can't take that away from me. All right, so that's it for today. So it was probably a pretty quick one. As I said, I don't want to make these too long and drawn out. And I hope to do another one of these later on in the year, as I didn't get to everyone's because I just sort of wanted to make this fun and quick and not too long. No one wants to hear my voice for an hour straight. But if you have some that haven't come up, please pop them in the comments. I would love to hear them. And if you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you liked and subscribed. If you want to check out my Instagram, it is at @the.unraveller, and my TikTok is at @the_unraveller. So I will hopefully be back this time next week. If you have any things that you want me to talk about, this channel is dedicated to knitting, so that's predominantly what I'm going to be talking about. But if you have any knitting related topics that you want me to cover, please let me know. Please also let me know if anyone has commented on your knitting style and whether that has bothered them so much that they needed to comment on it. I hope you all have an awesome day, and I'll see you guys next week.